and Michigan's best, and I'm excited to bring you another session of Cocktails with Bob. I've got Bob Fish here, the owner of Biggby Coffee, and I'm so happy that you're here with us again. I love these coffee-based cocktails that we've been making together over the last couple months. They're so much fun.
Yeah, they've been great. You know, the salted caramel, I don't know if we did that one together. I know we did tiramisu latte together.
Yeah, those are the two that we did, I think. We did.
We did one that had, it was almost Kahlua-like.
Yes, exactly. That one was really good. And then we did the one that we used the Jägermeister cold brew.
So good.
That stuff is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, today's drink is based on an LTO that just rolled out yesterday at Biggby Coffee. So, you know, we do all these limited time offers. And so right now there's a maple bourbon latte that has real maple syrup, but not real bourbon in it, you know? So here we get to make a drink that has real bourbon in it, you know?
I like it. We're going to amp it up a little bit. But I love that we've been making the cocktails. We make the alcoholic version of drinks that you can get at Biggby right now. I think it's kind of fun to try different ways.
Totally. And you know, bourbon and maple syrup and frankly coffee in that sort of flavor spectrum, they just really work so well together. All three of those ingredients are just like, they all just come together naturally.
Okay. What is it about it? Is it just they're complementary flavors in your mind, or?
Well, I think that they're both in that, they're all in that sort of caramely range. I mean, we could say that coffee isn't caramely, but I think it is, you know, especially when you do add sweetener to it, like a maple syrup or sugar or whatever. And of course, bourbon is in a caramel range. So, you know, the reason that we're doing the LTO at Biggby Coffee, of course, is it's fall, and there's caramel and fall for some reason, you know, because we do caramel hot cider and, you know, all that kind of stuff. All that just screams fall. So this is really a fall drink right here.
Okay, so we're about to transition into fall. We're enjoying the last few days of summer kind of here.
Yeah.
And we don't want to necessarily jump the gun, but I agree. I think we all get ready for the change of seasons here in Michigan, right?
Well, you know, in my mind, I mean, I know it's not officially this way, but September is fall. That's when school goes back theoretically. That's when college goes back. That's when my mind turns to fall. I know it's officially not fall.
Well, I totally grip onto summer for as long as I can.
Yeah, me too.
Now, Bob, you kind of started making these cocktails with your wife, Michelle, as a fun little date night thing to do while we were stuck at home, right? Yeah.
And so, you know, we run this blog called, you know, One Big Island in Space. And, you know, we do a lot of just, you know, reviewing coffee equipment and coffee methodologies, and of course, how to make certain coffee drinks. But then we do this fun thing called Date Night Cocktails that started during COVID when we were all stuck at home for sure. And it was just a way for us to celebrate date night, but still be at home and just have sort of a purpose behind it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I know, and I really like that inspiration behind these wonderful cocktails. Now, of course, the other inspiration behind these cocktails is Biggby Coffee, and we always start off with a great base. And today we're using cold coffee. I use the Biggby Best blend. Is that what you use too, Bob?
Yeah, I use Biggby Best for the cold brew. And, you know, I was talking about the blog, but on the blog, we have a video on how to make cold brew at home if anybody wants to do that. But we use the Biggby Best. It's very floral and it's very bright. And 30% of that comes farm direct from a farm relationship that we have in Nicaragua at the El Recreo farm. And, you know, whenever we go farm direct, we're interested in three things on that farm. One, are they treating their people right? Two, are they treating the planet right? And three, do they have some community project mission going on there? And the El Recreo folks do, and that's in Biggby Best.
I love that. That's really an initiative that Biggby is focusing on in the past, and over the next couple of years, you guys have made some big commitments to purchasing direct from farmers, right?
Oh, totally. So yeah, we're going 50% farm direct by 2023, and then once we hit that mark, we're going to 100%. Right now, we're at 15%. So a lot of that shows up in Biggby Coffee. The other one that shows up in is something we call Living Hope Coffee, and that comes straight out of Zambia. And that's 100% farm direct right there.
That's going to be kind of a game changer, I would think, for a lot of these farmers, because the number of franchises that Biggby has, the number of pounds of coffee that you purchase every year has got to be pretty big, right, Bob?
Yeah, close to 2 million pounds a year, so, but yeah, we really are impacting lives. I mean, they're making a living growing coffee, but, they don't have a reliable way to sell their coffee. And once we build this relationship, we build it for a lifetime. And we get to know the family. We go to the farm personally. We investigate to make sure they're treating workers right and no kids are working on the farm and that kind of thing. We're looking at the social mission, whether it's a school or a clinic or potable water or whatever it is. We're verifying all those kinds of things. And then we revisit, of course.
That's awesome. I like that commitment to doing a little bit of social change there.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So let's get started with our cocktail. And like we said, we're going to start with some cold brew. And you mentioned the video, which is you literally make cold brew in 60 seconds plus 24 hours, right, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. Right. So cold brew, it takes 24 hours to make. I mean, you can use a ball jar just like this. This is a 4-cup ball jar. If you put 1 cup of ground coffee in it and 3 cups of water, seal it up, give it a good shake. Don't put it in the fridge. Let it sit out overnight for 24 hours. Come back the next day and maybe filter it through a Chemex, mechanism. You've got cold brew. And cold brew's been super popular this year for Biggby coffee. We had cold brew. We had a caramel cold brew with sweet foam, and we couldn't keep it. We couldn't keep it in stock, basically. So the cold brew is just really hot right now.
Ha ha ha,
Bob. Really bad joke. Yes.
For those of us who don't know, how is the flavor profile different between drinking a hot brewed coffee that is chilled and drinking a cold brewed coffee? Yeah,
so it's not a hot extraction, and so it tends to be a little bit of a woodier taste, is the way I would describe that. Slightly more oxidized. Frankly, I actually prefer an iced coffee over a cold brew because I still believe that you need hot water to sort of release the flavors of the coffee. But think of this like you might sun tea, right? So sun tea, you don't use a hot extraction. You just put it in some water, maybe put it out in the sun. You can actually put it in your fridge. And it's a much slower extraction on the coffee. But some people believe it's a little less acidic when it's that way, but it does change the flavor profile significantly. And folks are looking for something different every once in a while.
Absolutely, right? All right, we've got our cold brew. So how do we start this drink? So we're making a coffee or a maple bourbon. Is it technically an old fashioned, or is it just a maple bourbon cocktail?
Just a maple bourbon cocktail. So we're using cold brew, we're using maple syrup, and we're using bourbon. It's a really straightforward recipe. We're shaking it in the shaker. And, the best way we should just get started on it, I think. So you need a shaker glass, and you need some way to measure all the ingredients. I just use a little cup because it's got 1 ounce markers on the side. And this recipe just takes, and this is a recipe for 2, because I don't think you should be drinking cocktails by yourself, right? So it just takes 1 ounce of the cold brew. And the cold brew is a little concentrated, so you don't need a lot of it. You put that in your shaker glass.
I kind of overpoured that. All right, there we go.
And then you need about 2 ounces of maple syrup. And, there's so many great maple syrups out there. You can get organic, or you can get something that's local to you. And that goes in pretty easy.
This is the moment where you definitely want to use a real maple syrup, not some log cabin.
Oh, yeah, please, no log cabin. That is, what is that? That's high fructose corn syrup or something like that, right? Colored and that kind of thing. By the way, you can deviate this recipe, and instead of using maple syrup, you could use brown sugar, right? So one deviation on this recipe is you would use 2 ounces of cold brew and 4 tablespoons of brown sugar And that also, that's a brown sugar bourbon cocktail made very similarly, similar flavor profile, those strong caramel flavors and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we do 5 ounces of bourbon.
5 ounces?
Yeah, it's for 2.
Okay, okay, that's right, it is for 2. I was like, Bob, what are you trying to do to me here?
Right. Well, it is for date night cocktails, so I'm always looking to get lucky with my wife. You know what I'm saying?
You're hopeful. You're almost hopeful. Now, what bourbon did you choose to use?
Oh, I used Knob Creek.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's a really nice one. There's so many bourbons, but you are mucking about with it a little bit. You're putting sugar and coffee in it, so I'm not sure you want to use your absolute best bourbon that you got out there. But yeah, give that a little stir. And then, of course, you need some ice cubes to shake it up.
I already had my ice cubes.
Oh, you already got yours in there?
I already have my ice cubes in there, yeah.
All right, I do it afterwards because if you do the brown sugar version, you need to dissolve that sugar. It's really hard to do that with the ice cubes in there.
Right, yeah, smart.
I sort of sprung that on you. Sorry about that. So,
I'm sure it's going to taste delicious no matter what.
and then, I don't know if people use a shaker a lot or not, but you got to get a pretty snug fit and give it a shake. And there's no graceful way to give it a shake, but if you shake it really hard for a long period of time, you can actually get, a little bit of a foam on top, right? So it'll almost look like crema.
I like it.
Now, you got to load up your glass with ice cubes, right?
Got it.
And I don't know if you made them this time, but I made some coffee ice cubes.
I didn't make them this time, but let's talk about that because I have been loving those this summer after one of the other cocktails. And you take your leftover coffee from the morning, throw it in an ice cube tray, freeze it up.
Absolutely.
And then you don't dilute it.
It's so easy.
It's so awesome.
It tastes great. I just like sometimes popping one of my, my mouth. That's my afternoon pick-me-up,
Right, it's a popsicle, adult popsicle.
Exactly.
Okay, so
and then if you shook it real good, you'll get a foam on top of that. Whoops, I'm supposed to use my my strainer.
And Bob, please remind everyone again, this is for 2 people, not 1.
Yes.
I'm only having half.
Now, all these flavors are really good with an orange zest on it. And you can just use a vegetable peeler and take off an orange zest and, give it a twist over the drink and maybe a quick wrap around the rim. And then you can just throw it right in there. And that's basically your garnish. I think
it's so important to have this zest on there because it adds a little bit of freshness, and that expelling of the kind of the juice of the zest really adds a whole nother, the aroma is crazy.
Isn't it great?
I love it, yeah.
By the way, the orange zest was, of course, Michelle's idea. I was all about the liquor and the sugar and stuff like that, but Michelle's like, you got to have an orange zest on there. And we did it, and she's absolutely right.
It's that kind of one ingredient that probably sends it over the top. Well, cheers to you, Bob. Cheers to
you.
Give it a taste. Woo! Wow.
It's a strong drink. Yeah. And if it's too strong, you can go up on your cold brew and down on your bourbon, because everything's to taste. But when you're drinking bourbon, you want to know you're drinking bourbon, right?
Agreed. And you're definitely going to know it, but I love it because this is a nicely balanced drink. I think you're totally right. You have a hint of sweetness, which kind of mellows out maybe some of that sometimes hotness of the bourbon.
That's right.
The coffee adds a really great note of bitterness playing against all that sweetness.
Yeah.
And the freshness of that zest is just delightful.
Yeah, the coffee adds complexity. The maple syrup and the quantity we use, it's not cloyingly sweet, right? It's just, it's enough that even if you're not really a bourbon drinker, you're like, yeah, I can leave bourbon alone. It makes it acceptable. It makes a great cocktail.
It's delicious. Well, cheers to you, Michelle, for coming up with another great concoction to enjoy Biggby coffee in a whole new light. If you want to try a regular one of these maple bourbon lattes, you can head to Biggby, and it's going to be available for a limited time, right, Bob?
That's right. I mean, a month or 2.
Okay. Plenty of time to go give it a taste.
That's right.
I love it. Well, Bob Fish from Biggby Coffee, thank you so much for joining me again on Cocktails with Bob.
It's always awesome to be with you.
I love it. If people want to get more information about Biggby, where should they go?
Biggby.com is the easiest place to go. And then if you really want to do a deep dive into, you know, like the farm direct and learn a little bit more about how to make coffee at home and things of that nature, you might go to our blog, which is One Big Island in Space with 2 G's, just like this.
I love it. That is a great website. I've got a lot of good, really good information from that. So thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us, Bob.
Oh, you bet.
I appreciate it. If you want to get more information about this cocktail, including the recipe, head to mlive.com.